So what key life experiences have formed who you are?
I come from a very small country called Bosnia. It used to be part of Yugoslavia, and in the early 90s there was some bad stuff that happened there. The good stuff that happened there also sort of informs who you are, right? So it's not just the bad things. Everything that was done there was community-based. People did things together, and that included building houses. It always felt like there was a sense of community behind that effort, and people would just help one another out. There was not, you didn't really have to do much more than just provide. So even for myself as a young kid, I was a part of that. We didn't have the resources that we had in larger places, and the tools that we used then are not the tools that we use today. So I would get a bucket of bent nails and I would straighten the nails I could to then go back to be reused for, and that left a big impression on me when I was young of like what building and what, you know, later finding out like architecture is.
So how did you become passionate and involved in
general, just being curious about stuff. Before I was able to hold a hammer, it was what you're exposed to as like toys, and everybody mentions Legos and all that. You got a box of Lego bricks, and then you put stuff together yourself. So it was a lot more imaginative. Being creative with something that you can make on your own without necessarily having the constraints. But here, it's just sort of seeing a completely different environment and being curious about how that environment came to be and how that was built.
So what are your core values and how are they reflected in your practice?
Integrity is a big one, and that's a huge one for me. That coupled with a little bit of like radicalness, but only where it counts. It's oftentimes it's done just to be done. It's like, oh, what can we do here? And then you do something there. But why? When you're free to design whatever you want, you know, with an unlimited budget and all that kind of stuff, you can be a lot more radical, but even then you have to become honest about what you're doing. You can usually come up with a good design that it's not just design for the sake of design.
What is your design process?
Part of being honest about something is discovery. Just looking at what's there and letting that information guide you. An example on a recent project was just really going out to visit the neighborhood and the site and seeing what was built there. And it happened to areas of architecture that were quite radical, like Googie architecture. So it always goes back to sort of researching.
Next question, how do you collaborate with other individuals to realize your impactful work?
You can never fully realize something alone. Working with people and having more eyes on the project and more just dialogue with other people about the ideas is very, very helpful. I do try and incorporate other opinions and other people into the process as well.
Where is design going?
These days, you're no longer just going to have to understand that this software does this. There's now job applications or job posts where it's like, well, we want a design person who knows Python. All these different things that are sort of being layered into the design profession are coming from another profession that a number of years ago we were sort of upset and angry about, that call themselves architects. So generative design is design, right? So you're allowing this thing, this machine, to iterate for you and to create some options for you without you having to endlessly sketch. I think it's going to be one of the most transformative things that happen to architectural design. So technology in practice and design is going to become a bigger part of the conversation.
So
a lot of things that inform who you are later in life, and then you go, well, is this really a challenge, or is this just like something that I need to be more aware of? Like learning to code Python, is that a challenge, or is that something that's going to transform the way I design? The professional environment.
So last question, what did a young student?
I'll borrow from a local architect who's in super well known, and his sort of idea behind that. And in that aspect, I'd advise is twofold. But the job, right? is on the poetic side, like just be tremendously focused on that you really want out of it. I would advise the opposite, is to just sort of be as far as advice, and let some of that it is that you're focusing on. And then on the flip side, while you're still young and while you're still sort of learning, exploring, do have